There's nothing quite like learning about the early stages of somebody's career. Like you could randomly be watching a YouTube video talking about Queer Eye and then be flashbanged with the knowledge that Ted Allen was a member of the Fab Five. Or that before he ever got a chance to ruin the tour, Justin Timberlake got his start on the Mickey Mouse Club with his then friend Ryan Gosling. At the same time though, there's only so many times that you can learn something interesting about someone before you initially just start to shrug your shoulders. Which is why I generally tend to focus more on fictional worlds. Specifically, whether it be something that got scrapped early on or an idea that was iterated on through multiple drafts, concept art has always intrigued me because it's always interesting to see the mindset that the creative team had going into things. And in general, it's interesting to see how these kinds of projects come together. Like sometimes they'll have the idea nailed down from pretty much the start, and other times the final product will barely resemble the initial pitch. So join me in this series as we talk about a variety of concepts across movies, TV, and even gaming. And I'll give my own 2 cents on various aspects. And I might even pitch some of my own ideas, seeing how they could have been implemented.
Okay. Show me.
That I will. So, with that said, let's begin. Remember how the live-action remake for Lilo and Stitch completely dropped Gontu as a character, instead opted to make Jumba the main villain of the story? In a way, I kinda understand that mindset.
You what?
At least, I would have if they'd gone with this version of the character. Believe it or not, Lilo and Stitch's concept art is actually what encouraged me to make this video in the first place, as for every idea that stayed the same, there was one that changed dramatically, which in turn gives us a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. Jumping right into things, Lilo and Nani's situation is pretty much the same as it was in the final movie, with the main difference being that the two are a lot more loving towards each other from the start. And similar to that, the ending plays out pretty much the same, with Stitch being allowed to stay on Earth and the whole little family being brought together, with the main difference being that the other children seem to have taken more of a liking to Lilo, and there's no mention of Jumba and Pleakley. And yeah, that's basically it. Whoa, hey, come on now. I was just kidding. You guys know I like to put in all those little jokes. You guys have no sense of humor. In all seriousness though, I wanted to get some of the smaller stuff out of the way first, so that we could focus squarely on all of the juicier details. So buckle up, because we're in for a wild ride this time.
Have you ever stolen anyone's children? I mean, you look like you would.
Did you know that Stitch was actually a rejected concept from a children's book that Chris Sanders pitched in 1985? Yeah, no idea why they turned that one down. Honestly, I wasn't surprised by the fact that Lilo and Stitch had some differences from what we see in the final movie. But even then, I was still surprised by just how much the story diverged from what we came to know. Like, Stitch in the original draft was actually a career criminal, rather than his existence in of itself being a crime, as he would have actually had over 2,000 criminal charges against him. This version of Stitch would have also been the leader of a criminal gang who would have actually helped him escape at the start of the movie, though he would have still been separated from them when he went crashing down to Earth. And during his time with Lilo, he would have been working to establish contact with them, which, looking at some of Sanders' early artwork, definitely tracks. Stitch looks a lot meaner in the concept art, having a much more goblin-like appearance compared to the cuter creature that we'd get in the final film. Now, I'm just gonna go out on a whim and say this, but Stitch is definitely one of the most gaslit fictional characters in history, because how on earth do you believe that this is a dog? Like, the only person who believed that is someone who's already scared of them. But jokes aside, Stitch is a design that definitely seems like they had figured out early on, and simply had to refine it over time. Like, even if I didn't tell you who this picture was of, you probably have an easy time guessing who it was meant to be. A trait that he shares with Lilo, who was also depicted pretty consistently throughout some of these early drawings. And as I hinted at earlier, it stands in sharp contrast with Jumba, who is basically a completely different character. Not that that's anything new to him, as Jumba in the original story was actually a bounty hunter who was sent to capture and, if necessary, kill Stitch, and would have been accompanied by Pleakley to make sure that he didn't violate any of Earth's laws, similar to the final movie, which, if I was to guess, would have likely gotten in the way of Jumba doing his job. And given that Pleakley's design here is pretty close to how it was in the final version, I'd say he was probably pretty much the same in personality, which, like the final film, would have likely been to Jumba's annoyance. Honestly, I don't hate this early concept. Like, I like that not every villain has to have a very close connection with the hero, but at the same time, I do think the idea of Jumba creating Stitch and everything is a much more interesting concept. In terms of what they do with the dynamic, Jumba isn't just trying to take out this alien threat, he's trying to get back his creation and potentially use it for his nefarious plans. Only to start to rethink the whole thing once he sees how Stitch's character has progressed during his time with Lilo and Nani. Not only that, but it's way funnier as Jumba is basically trying to be rewarded for fixing a mistake that he caused in the first place and doesn't even feel remorse over. At the same time though, I do kind of like the idea that containing this big bad alien threat is just another business day for Jumba. Like the Galactic Federation could easily just send out a private strike force to capture Stitch. But no, they just send some guy and trust that he'll do the right thing, alongside someone who definitely can't take him in a fight. If it wasn't already obvious, Jumba easily had the biggest overhaul from concept to final, as literally the only similarity between the two is their size. Strangely though, Jumba sports a pair of ears very similar to Stitch, despite them not being the same species or having any sort of connection. And much like Stitch's early concepts, feels very indicative of the version of the character that they were going for in these drafts. Also, I didn't know where else to put this, but when Stitch rallies Jumba and Pleakley to help him save Lilo, they wind up hijacking an airplane that they used to chase down the ship, since the ship would be slower in Earth's atmosphere. Information that I suspect will not influence the comments section of this video. But jokes aside, we've basically covered all the stuff that was changed slightly or drastically when it came time to make the final draft of the movie. So, let's talk about the stuff that was outright cut. Stitch would have secretly constructed an army of robots early on, likely in an attempt to do a hostile takeover of Earth before his gang showed up. However, when it came time for the robots to start wreaking havoc, Lilo would have been put at risk, and Stitch, having had a change of heart over time, would jump in to save her, betraying the rest of his gang, with them snatching up Lilo as payback. What's worse is that this happens right after Stitch writes Lilo off as a necessary convenience to his gang, right in front of her. And even crazier is that he does this with the knowledge that Lilo basically saved his life after he got blasted by Jumba. Though given that Stitch recognized Lilo's act and it happened right before his gang showed up, Stitch probably did it in the heat of the moment just to seem tough. And Stitch was out cold when Lilo saved him, so it was more so that he put two and two together. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this draft of the story. Like, you can have flawed characters and everything and have characters who are learning to be better people over the course of the story, but at the same time, the specifics of this story I feel like kinda bring it down in a way. Like, with Lilo and Nani's situation being pretty much the same as the final film, Stitch coming in and arguably causing more problems than he fixed really doesn't have the same effect when you know that he's kind of aware of what he's doing. In the final film, I'd say it works because Stitch doesn't really know any better. Like, he was literally made that way. So, he's genuinely learning a lot of stuff for the first time. So, when Stitch's problems catch up with him, it makes his efforts to fix things feel a lot stronger, since he's genuinely grown throughout the course of the story. Whereas here, it kind of feels like Stitch is reluctant to change, and then when he does, it's a bit too late to really feel impactful. Forget the Ground Council woman, I capped this version of Stitch for free, plus tax. But in all seriousness, long story short, I'd say Lilo and Stitch is one of those cases where the final draft was the best draft. Not to say that the previous ones had bad ideas, but that the final one just handled its ideas the best. Now, in terms of implementing these ideas, I'd probably have the bounty hunter be sent to Earth alongside Jumba and Pleakley, and basically compete against them to get Stitch, with each party getting in the other's way. And as for Stitch's criminal gang, I'd probably retcon them into the story somehow. The live-action remake is already set to have a sequel, so stay tuned, kids, for Lilo and Stitch 2. Stitch is a That was definitely a lot, but now I think you guys understand why I wanted to do this video. So, with that, I hand it off to you. Tell me down in the comments section what you thought of the dropped concepts, and which ones you liked or disliked the most. Also, tell me how you would have implemented them if given the chance. Lilo and Stitch isn't the only topic I want to do like this, so expect another video like this at some point. But with that said, be sure to like, share, and subscribe today to join the A-list. And have a great day. Bye!